Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. You know, today's a little bit different.
Oh,
Yeah, we're not going to be looking at a research paper or a news article this time.
interesting.
We are actually diving into a TikTok conversation, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay.
And this one is really something else.
All right. I'm intrigued what's going on TikTok.
So this influencer got into it with GPT
Oh, no.
about the solar system.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, they were really questioning this whole thing with the 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like how during certain times of the year, the sun just never sets there?
Like the land of the midnight sun.
Yeah, exactly. And they couldn't wrap their head around it.
What was their main issue with it?
Well, they were saying, if I can see the sun every day in California,
Mm-hmm.
how could it also be circling Antarctica for, a full 24 hours?
Yeah, I see. So they're thinking if they can see the sun every day, it can't be somewhere else for a full 24 hours.
Right. It just didn't make sense to them.
Well, you see, that kind of thinking ignores the scale of things.
So
Well, the influencer's assuming that because they see the sun every day, it can't possibly be simultaneously circling another part of the Earth for a full day.
Okay.
It challenges this idea of the Earth's massive size and the fact that it rotates,
Right.
which is like fundamental to the heliocentric model, the whole idea that the Earth revolves around the sun.
Okay. So basically, they're saying what they see every day doesn't really jive with, what we're taught about how the solar system works.
Exactly. And that's where ChatGPT comes in and things get even more interesting.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well, ChatGPT actually agreed with the influencer to a certain extent.
Really?
Yeah, it said that what the influencer was observing could actually line up with a different model of the solar system.
A different model. Like what?
One where the sun is much closer to the Earth,
Okay.
and it moves in a circular path above a stationary Earth.
Whoa, hold on. So that sounds kind of like that geocentric model, right?
Exactly, like that ancient idea that the Earth is the center of the universe, and everything revolves around us.
Wow. So we've got this influencer like just going off of their everyday observations, and then ChatGPT is throwing out this totally alternative model of the solar system.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild conversation.
So where does it go from there? What do they talk about next?
Well, believe it or not, they actually started discussing how this alternative model could still explain the things we see every day,
Like what?
like the sun's movement across the sky,
Uh-huh.
the changing seasons, and even day and night cycles.
Wait, so they're saying that even if the Earth isn't spinning around the sun, we could still have all those things.
Yeah, that's what they're suggesting.
How would that even work?
Well, they suggest that it all comes down to the sun's path and how close it is to different parts of the Earth at different times of year.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think about things in a new way.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like it? Is that the end of the conversation?
Oh, no, not even close. The influencer keeps going and brings up another observation.
Okay, what is it?
They mention how the sun seems to fade out in the distance instead of setting behind a curve like you might expect if the Earth was round.
Interesting.
And they use that to argue that the sun might be closer than mainstream science claims.
Oh, I see. So they're like using that as evidence for this whole closer sun idea.
Exactly. And get this, ChatGPT actually seems to agree with them on this point.
No way.
Yeah, it even adds in this whole thing about a local sun taking its local light with it as it moves away.
Whoa, okay. So ChatGPT is really entertaining this idea.
It seems that way, although we have to remember that AI doesn't always understand the nuances of these complex scientific topics.
Right. It's just processing the information it's given and spitting out a response.
Exactly. So we can't always take what it says as, the absolute truth.
Definitely not. So we've got this influencer questioning everything, ChatGPT throwing out alternative explanations, and you're here helping us make sense of it all.
Trying my best.
So what happens next in this wild conversation? Where does it go from here?
Well, the influencer starts to wonder why people believe in the heliocentric model in the first place.
Oh, that's a good question, especially if they don't think it can be proven.
Right, and ChatGPT actually has a pretty interesting response to that.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. So ChatGPT basically explained that the heliocentric model, it's not, just based on like blind faith or anything.
Okay.
It's built upon like centuries of, scientific observations and calculations and experiments.
Right.
Like it's the accepted model because it works. It explains so many things.
So like what kinds of things does it explain?
Well, it accurately explains things like planetary motion, how the planets move, the seasons, even eclipses,
Okay.
and like countless other astronomical phenomena.
So it's not just like some random idea someone pulled out of a hat.
No, it's been tested and like retested and confirmed over and over again by scientists all over the world.
Right, but the influencers in buying it, huh?
Not really. No, they bring up something else that fuels their skepticism.
Oh, what's that?
It's NASA.
NASA. What about them?
Well, the influencer claims that NASA hasn't provided real unedited footage of the Earth in motion.
Interesting.
And this is like a common theme you see in a lot of these kind of conversations.
Like a distrust of authority.
Exactly. People are skeptical of big institutions and their motives.
So basically, the influencer thinks NASA's hiding the truth about the Earth being stationary.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're implying.
And what evidence do they have for that?
Well, they point to some things they consider suspicious.
Like what?
Well, they talk about the meaning of the name NASA in Hebrew,
Yeah.
the design of the logo,
Uh-huh.
and even a biblical reference on a former NASA engineer's tombstone.
Whoa, hold on. Are they, like, suggesting some kind of biblical conspiracy here?
It does seem like they're drawing a connection between these symbols and this idea of a firmament.
A firmament? What's that do?
Well, it's this like dome-like structure that's mentioned in some religious texts.
Right.
And it's often interpreted as this solid barrier separating the earth from the heavens.
Oh, wow. So they're connecting this ancient idea to, like, a modern-day conspiracy theory about NASA.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? It shows how these conversations can sometimes blend science with religion and conspiracy theories.
It's a lot to unpack, for sure.
It really is. It just shows that people can interpret the same information in totally different ways based on their existing worldview.
Absolutely. It makes you think about how our own beliefs and biases can shape how we see the world, even something like the solar system.
Exactly. It's a good reminder to be open-minded and to always approach information with a critical eye.
So the influencer is really challenging some pretty fundamental ideas here, and they even call out a couple of people specifically.
Yeah, they mentioned Jiren and Will Duffy.
What do they say about them?
They accuse them of being liars and say they promote the heliocentric model to distance people from a belief in God.
That's a pretty serious accusation.
It is, and it raises an important point. You know, science and faith, they don't have to be at odds with each other.
Right. There are plenty of scientists who are also religious.
Exactly. It's when people try to present their own personal interpretations as absolute truth that we need to be careful.
So it seems like this influencer is putting their faith and their observations above mainstream science.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. They seem convinced that there's this deliberate effort to suppress the truth about a stationary Earth with a firmament.
A conspiracy to keep people in the dark.
Right, and they claim that knowing the truth would empower people and challenge the powers that be.
That's a familiar theme in conspiracy theories for sure.
It is, but it's important to remember that this influencer genuinely believes what they're saying.
Right. It's not just about facts. It's about their deeply held beliefs and values.
Exactly, and it's a good reminder that these conversations are often about more than just science.
Well, this whole deep dive has been a wild ride. We've got this influencer questioning everything, ChatGPT offering up alternative explanations, skepticism directed at NASA, and even accusations of conspiracy.
It's a lot to process for sure.
So where do we even go from here? What's the takeaway from all of this?
It really is a lot, and I think it just goes to show you that how we understand the universe, it's not only based on, scientific evidence, but also like our own personal beliefs, our experiences, the information we choose to trust.
Totally. It's like we're all looking at the same sky, but we see totally different things.
Yeah, and so how do we reconcile these like seemingly conflicting views?
Right. That's the big question.
I think it starts by, recognizing that science is a process.
Okay.
It's a process of discovery and like constantly refining our understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So, the heliocentric model, it's become the prevailing view because it just explains so much. It explains tons of observable data.
Yeah.
It's been tested over and over again. It's been confirmed.
But that doesn't mean that we should just, completely shut down any alternative perspective.
Exactly. Like it's not about just blindly accepting everything we're told.
Right.
But it's also not about dismissing everything that challenges the mainstream.
So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly. Finding that balance between healthy skepticism and respecting the scientific method.
Okay, I like that.
We should always be asking questions, examining the evidence, considering different interpretations. But we also have to be aware of our own biases.
Right.
And try to avoid jumping to conclusions based on like limited information.
So that's a really good point because it is so easy to get swept up in a narrative, especially if it like confirms what we already believe.
Absolutely. And especially now, with social media and AI.
Yeah.
we're bombarded with information all the time.
Constantly.
And some of it's reliable, but a lot of it's questionable.
For sure.
So it's more important now than ever to develop critical thinking skills and to really learn how to figure out what are credible sources.
And what's just someone pushing an agenda?
Exactly.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has been.
And I bet it's got everyone listening out there thinking too.
I hope so.
And maybe next time you look up at the night sky, you'll see it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll start to wonder about the vastness of the universe and, our place in it.
It's a beautiful thing to think about.
It really is. And until next time, everyone, keep those minds curious. Keep exploring the world around you, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
See you then.